Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. And today it's an episode of A Game of Throws, so you know it's going to be spicy. Taking a quick look at the team lineups. The star of today's show is Alpha 908 here in this Tier 9 battle in the Italian Tier 9 battleship, the Lepanto. Taking a quick look at the team lists, we can see that there is both good news and bad news for battleship players. First, there's no aircraft carrier, and second, there are no submarines. That's the good news. The bad news is that both teams have 4 destroyers, and there is no aircraft carrier to spot them, and as an Italian battleship, the Lepanto is less capable than most of dealing with a destroyer threat. It does not get high explosive ammunition. Its 12 main battery guns have a 37-second base reload, so if a destroyer does pop up and you've just fired the guns, or you see the destroyer shoot at it and manage to miss, you have to wait 37 seconds before you can do anything else about it. Its secondaries are kind of weak, and more than half of the secondaries, the 90mm guns, are such low caliber that they can't even penetrate the armour of tier 8, 9 or 10 destroyers. And of course, it doesn't have hydro. It does at least have very good torpedo damage reduction, second only to the Musashi at tier 9. And it's pretty quick. Well, it's not actually pretty quick. It's no Georgia, but it's definitely not slow, with a top speed of 29.5 knots and more than 30 knots if you equip a speed flag, which you absolutely should do if you have them spare. Plus it has an exhaust smoke generator. This is the Italian gimmick, the high-speed smoke, which means you can motor away from any detected or suspected destroyer torpedo threat, while also going undetected, providing you haven't fired your guns recently. Speaking of the Lepanto's guns, we've already talked about the horrendously slow 37-second reload. Actually, let's talk about the good things about the Lepanto's guns, because it won't take long. You ready? The good thing about the Lepanto's guns, well, aside from having access to the semi-armor piercing ammunition, which is particularly effective against cruisers and lightly armoured battleships, but the Lepanto has 12 guns, 3 turrets, 4 guns per turret. Unfortunately, horribly slow reload, and the accuracy is kind of bad. They're also not very large caliber. These are 15-inch guns, at a tier where most other nations' battleships have long ago upgraded to at least 16-inch guns. And the 15-inch armour-piercing shells that these guns fire are not great. The semi-armour-piercing shells are good. I mean, they will do reliable and consistent damage most of the time if you can hit the target. But that's kind of the trick, isn't it? If you can hit the target, which means that the Lepanto is best used for medium range. It is definitely not a brawler, and it is definitely not a sniper. It doesn't have the armour or survivability to brawl, and it doesn't have the accuracy to snipe. At medium range, however, you minimise the disadvantages of the horrible accuracy of the guns, and unlike other notoriously inaccurate battleships, yes, Gneisenau, we are all looking at you, the Lepanto throws twice as much shit at the wall, with a correspondingly greater chance that at least some of it is going to stick. And as you can see, when he gets 8 shots out against even a well-armoured battleship like the Pommern over there, the semi-armour piercing will do reliable and consistent damage, providing you can land enough shots on target. He starts backing off, extremely nervous about the presence of multiple enemy destroyers detected over there. But the team do have better options than the enemy team when it comes to dealing with destroyers. For a start, they have a Kitakaze, a fearsomely dangerous gunboat, and they also have a tier 9 radar cruiser in the shape of the Buffalo, who thus far at least has been way too far to the north to actually use that radar effectively. In fact, he hasn't used it at all yet. Unfortunately, the Kitakaze bit off way more than he could possibly chew and managed to get himself sunk, all the way over there on the eastern flank. He is the team's second casualty, and the second of the 4 destroyer casualties. So the enemy team now have the destroyer advantage, which is a big advantage to have when more than a third of both teams consist of battleships. I just want to spend a bit of time talking about the high-speed smoke generator here. And also the smoke firing penalty, because I know that it is something that a lot of players do not fully understand. Because I took merciless advantage of that lack of understanding when the Italian cruisers were first introduced, and demonstrated that most people playing Italian cruisers didn't understand the smoke firing penalty. A smoke screen, contrary to popular belief, is not a cloaking device. It does not make you invisible. It simply blocks line of sight. And it works both ways, but it is always subject to the smoke firing penalty. Now, Alpha has just fired his rear turret at the enemy Z-23, and despite the fact that the friendly Akatsuki is laying smoke in front of him, he is still spotted, targeted by multiple enemies who can still see him even through the smoke because he fired his guns. But the smoke firing penalty only lasts for the first 20 seconds after you've fired. He has now gone undetected again because the smoke screen is blocking line of sight between him and any enemies who would have been able to see him. His detection range has now gone down to 2 kilometers, which is the minimum assured detection distance. Even if you're inside a smoke screen and you're not firing your guns, or you're on the other side of an island, if there is an enemy within 2 kilometers, you will be detected anyway. Watch how his visibility changes as he moves in and out of the smoke. It was back up to 14.9 kilometers. Then he triggers his high-speed smoke, and it's gone back down to 2 kilometers, but watch what happens when he fires. Now, he's not stupid, he's not going to fire immediately, he's waiting for the pommen. Okay, now he can fire without the pommen returning fire, and watch what happens to his detection. Bang, straight up to 15.8 kilometers. That is his smoke firing penalty. And the smoke firing penalty is bigger based on the caliber of guns doing the shooting. A destroyer might only have a smoke firing penalty of 4 or 5 kilometers. A light cruiser, maybe 5 to 7 kilometers. But a battleship is pretty much guaranteed to always be detected when it fires its guns, even if it's inside a smokescreen. This never used to be the case. There was a time in World of Warships when there just was no smoke firing penalty, which led to the ridiculous situation where a battleship would be smoked up by a destroyer, blazing away with its 16-inch guns at targets 4 kilometers away without being spotted. In case you hadn't noticed, Alpha's team are getting their arse handed to them, by the way. They've lost 4 ships, a battleship, a cruiser and 2 destroyers. They hold one of the cap circles, but the enemy team hold another, and they're in the process of flipping a second. And Alpha's team have yet to sink anybody, although hopefully that pommen's going to go down soon. Yes, okay, the Jean Bart Black finished him off with fires. He's still keeping a healthy distance, not because he's particularly scared of any of the enemy battleships, it's the torpedo threat posed by those destroyers. Oh, some good hits on Gianni Alsacci over there. No love lost in this game between Italian battleships. What? It's the Alsacci. It's named after the world-famous Italian fashion designer, Gianni Alsacci. Everybody knows that. There's an opportunity to kill the Baltimore here, which would be useful. It is the enemy's only radar cruiser. What's that? We're not falling for that for a second, Jingles. Why would the Italians name one of their battleships after a fashion designer? Excuse me, have you ever been to Italy? I have, multiple times. They're the best dressed people in Europe. No joke, they really are. Remember the first time I went to Italy? Well, technically it wasn't Italy. It was one of the Italian islands, Sardinia. I was with the Navy, obviously. I thought I was wearing smart clothes. Oh, we've just lost the Akatsuki. Well, of course we have. We're now down to 1 destroyer, 5 casualties, still only 2 enemy ships down. But yeah, I thought I was dressed quite smartly, but myself and my entire ship's company look like a bunch of scruffs compared to the Italians, all of whom look like they just stepped off the catwalk at a Milan fashion show. It's why I never really got the whole Italian fascist World War II thing, because the Italians aren't into fascism. It's not their thing. The Italians as a nation are way less into nationalism and way more into cooking great food and riding around on scooters looking cool. The only possible explanation I can think of for the rise of fascism in Italy prior to World War II is they were just into the uniforms. That's the only explanation I can think of that makes any kind of sense. Anyway, torpedoes spotted there. Alpha is still clearly being pursued by enemy destroyers. The team's Prince Heinrich just managed to get a kill, but died immediately afterwards, so the scores are still, well, they're not neutral, but the loss of the Prince Heinrich hasn't actually made that much of a difference, other than the reduction in firepower available to the team with the loss of yet another battleship. Anyway, Alpha really cannot keep running away from these destroyers. He's going to end up with the rest of his team all herded into one corner of the map, so despite the fact that he is definitely not in the ship best equipped to deal with a destroyer threat, he's taking a look at the map and figuring, well, there were 3 enemy destroyers down by Alpha, but the Scania has flipped Bravo, which means that the Z-23 and the Yugamo is going to be the biggest threat because the Yugamo's torpedoes really hurt. So he's popped his smoke and he's turning around. Now they're still going to see him coming. I mean, they won't see him coming, but they'll see an extremely fast and angry looking smoke screen coming. However, the Buffalo down to the southeast is finally in a position to offer some kind of decent radar coverage. The Z-23 has just been spotted further to the north attacking the Jean-Bart-B, and the Hipper here has excellent German hydro, which he of course is not using. Because hey, I mean, if you're attacking a smokescreen that you're pretty sure probably contains an extremely dangerous torpedo destroyer, why would you bother using your hydroacoustic search to give you some kind of fighting chance against him? So the Hipper's down, the team are now even further behind on points. But then the Yugamo suffers from what I can only describe as a sudden and fatal rush of shit to the brain. He was concealed inside that smokescreen, 100% undetected. His torpedoes sank, the only thing capable of actually revealing him inside the smokescreen. The Buffalo's using his radar, but he's too far away. So the Yugamo then decided to leave the smoke voluntarily and try to charge down and engage a Jean-Bart-B in a gunfight with a Lepanto on his flank. I'm not seeing the upside here at all. I'm certainly not complaining, because that's one less extremely dangerous destroyer. Unfortunately, it was not a points neutral exchange because the team have just lost their heavy radar cruiser. Ironically enough, the Buffalo, ironically, actually it's irony upon irony here, torpedoed and sunk by the Yudachi that he was radaring, so it's not like he can claim that he didn't know there were going to be torpedoes coming. And he's now there in chat. Get this. The heavy radar cruiser is blaming the battleships for not chasing down and killing the destroyers. This is something that actually makes sense in whatever plane of reality the mind of that Buffalo player comes from. Okay, Scania torpedoes, 10,000 damage, fine. Swedish torpedoes, they're basically pinpricks. Alpha has a couple of minutes before he needs to worry about those again. He's loaded the armour piercing, and he had the broadside of Gianni Alsacchi over there to shoot at, but, well, Italian battleship armour piercing is kind of shit. So it's going to require a second salvo. Fortunately, Gianni Alsacchi was focused on the Jean-Bart-B, who was nosing towards him rather than pummeling the broadside of the Lepanto, who was mostly broadside onto him. Now, you could be forgiven for thinking that things were starting to look up. I mean, technically they are, but they're still 2 kills, 300 points, and they're about to be 3 cap circles behind. The Leon over there is at basically more or less the perfect range for the Lepanto's guns. And the Leon player, despite being a bottom tier battleship, is proving that he is at least capable of thinking and breathing at the same time, because he turns into the island and grounds himself rather than expose his broadside to a Lepanto armor piercing salvo at that kind of range. Okay, the Rune has just been spotted. German Tier 9 heavy cruiser. Now, you don't have to have the hydroacoustic search consumable to know that a Rune that's popped up within 6 kilometers has just launched torpedoes at you. And of course, there they are. Obviously, which is why Alpha slowed down. Now then, choice of targets. His secondaries are working the Leon over, although the best he can probably hope for them to do is set a couple of fires. He's getting hit by the Leon's secondaries as well, though, and he's down to 32,000 health with no heals remaining, so he pops his high-speed smoke, even though he's not going at full speed. because he wants to troll the rune into giving them a perfect shot, because the smoke firing penalty works both ways, into and out of the smoke screen. Unfortunately, Italian armor piercing, which he had switched back to, in anticipation of citadeling the shit out of the rune, is shit. So he didn't kill him. Fortunately, the Jingles.B did. He's now, of course, detected again by the Lion because of the smoke firing penalty, which, remember, lasts for 20 seconds after you've fired the guns, which means he now can't see the Lion out of the smoke screen, and he's going to have to wait for the Lion to fire or get within mutually assured detection range, 2 kilometers. The Lion obliges by firing, and I mean, you know, the Lion did the best he could. But with the Jingles.B and the Lepanto closing in on him, and once again the armor piercing proving just how terrible it is. Ooh, Alpha appears to be caught in a crossfire. Oh yes indeed, here comes some more of those crunchy on the outside, chewy on the inside Swedish torpedoes. Again, they don't do a huge amount of damage. The chief advantage is their speed and the fast reload on the launchers. But Alpha is now on very low health, and while he absolutely definitely wants to kill the Lion, and he also wants to stay inside the cap circle because the enemy team are at 896 points, with the Monarch over there and the Scania over there, he cannot really afford to stay inside the cap and continue to get shot at because he's down to 5,000 health. And if he dies, the enemy team are pretty much guaranteed to win. Now there is some good news. The Jingles up to the north has just killed the Z-23 that has been harassing him for the best part of the last 5 minutes. Although I am seeing some torpedoes in the water up there. Also, the Jingles.B just killed the Scania. And the Monarch, his guns are not pointing in this direction yet. But Alpha is visible. He is on perilously low health. Oh, he finally scores a citadel with all the armor piercing he's been slinging around. Well, it's about damn time. And I think he wanted to stay inside that cap circle for obvious reasons. The enemy have 2 of the 3 cap circles. But with less than 5,000 health, if that Monarch swings the guns around, he's going to die. Flipping that cap would be nice, but it's just not worth the risk, especially since the Yudachi has just sunk the Jingles.B and the enemy team are up to 920 points with less than 3 minutes of the battle to go, and they still have 2 caps. Unfortunately, it just was not worth the risk for Alpha to stay there. However, he didn't need to stay there, because while he can be spotted flipping the cap, the Cossack that's just slipped into the central cap at B will not be spotted by flipping the cap. Which means that Alpha, even though he has no heals left, and this 4,000 health is all he's ever going to have, should be able to slip past these islands over here, and if he's fast enough, get into the cap circle at Charlie. If he's fast enough, and if nobody else on the team dies. Because the enemy team are now up to 954 points. And there are only 2 minutes of the battle remaining. All the Yudachi and the Monarch have to do in order to win is sail to the northeast and wait to win on points. And the Yudachi can certainly do that and stay undetected. With the distance that the Monarch is from everybody else, even he could do that and stay undetected. And if the Yudachi has a smoke screen, which is not guaranteed, he may have used them all, he can just lay smoke behind the Monarch, and they will both get away scot-free. Nobody in Alpha's team is in a position to spot them. The Jingles is hiding behind an island. The Cossack is only just now emerging into open water. But he's still never going to spot the Yudachi if the Yudachi has done the sensible thing and has hightailed it out to the northeast. And Alpha has no line of sight on anything until he rounds the corner of this island and prays to make it into the cap circle in time. And then the Monarch gets spotted. That might have been the Cossack, but then the Yudachi gets spotted. Why are they attacking? What is wrong with these people? More importantly, look at the score. 993. 996. 999. And Alpha makes it into the cap circle, freezing the points gain. Alpha fires at the Yudachi, scores some hits, doesn't kill him, but the Yudachi is not. I mean, he's firing his guns. What is wrong with you? Why would you get into a gunfight with a Jean Bart and a Cossack when you were 1 point away from winning? What is your problem? The enemy team can still do it though. The Monarch can kill that Jean Bart. The Cossack is trying to lay a smokescreen for him, but the Adachi's torpedoes get him. The enemy team go back up to 994 points with 10 seconds of the battle to go before the Monarch won on points. And Alpha's armor-piercing shells finally do their job, and he scores the Citadel that he so desperately needed in order to put the Monarch down, the last surviving enemy ship, and win the game. And all because, as we've seen so many times now, the winning side just cannot seem to resist the urge to try to win harder than they already are, when all they need to do is nothing, because nothing is often the hardest thing that you can do. So another guaranteed win thrown away in the last 30 seconds, another episode of A Game of Throws. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.